Right, chat? Are we live yet? Oh my goodness. What a day. Historical. I saw Obama. He was a little bit upset. I think he doesn't like the fact that his third term is over. Unironically, though, it's interesting that the mainstream media isn't trying to find out who is behind the curtain. Because if you actually follow the news, you will notice something very interesting. A lot of people were basically saying that you don't have Joe Biden as president because he's not exactly up there. You know, they would notice a lot of gaffes. They would notice a lot of things that don't make sense. And they would say, well, maybe the man is a little bit old. You know, like maybe he is having a lot of senior moments. And the mainstream media was saying, no, this is a conspiracy theory. Like, this obviously isn't happening. But then you have the presidential debate, and you notice that, no, it's true. Like, the man genuinely isn't all up there. And then the media admits that, yeah, like, if he can't have a debate, how can he run a nation? And this question remained for a couple of days until Kamala Harris was announcing that she's going to run. And since those days, we still have Joe Biden as president. Like, he is the leader of the free world. He is the president of Romania's strategic ally, as they call it. But I thought that he's having senior moments. And all of a sudden, he's capable of writing documents and passing executive orders. And so, like, the question is, who's helping him? And this is a question that the mainstream media just forgets to ask. Hello, Aristocratic Cthulhu. And hello, SRC Baker. Damn, I was about to get a pizza. Well, you can wait 1 hour, because I'm not going to stream more than usual. Apparently, TikTok is going to suppress stuff from the left now. So, my god, like TikTok, they managed to outplay the Americans so fucking hard on this. By promoting Donald Trump, I will immediately show you what I mean. But if you're going on TikTok and you're looking for things like fascism or Donald Trump rigged elections, if you're in the United States, you won't find anything. But if you're from the UK, you're going to get search results. So, like, this is extremely interesting because, by the way, I disagree with this. Like, I don't think it's healthy. I think in a democracy, you should be able to question the elections, period. I don't fucking care. No matter the situation, like, in no other walks of life are you unable to question something like this. Like, I've been to 2 universities, and you get university exams. And so, based on the exam, you're going to get a grade. And that grade can be used if you want to get a scholarship. It can be used if you graduate. It's going to be on your diploma. So, like, an employer can use that grade in order to judge if you get the job or not. And so, like, usually the exams are, like, you get in a room, right? And you have a piece of paper, multiple answer, or sometimes you have to write something. And you give it to the teacher. And the teacher gives you a grade. Now oftentimes, the teacher can actually make mistakes. You know, like if he gets 300 papers and he has to go through all of them and grade them, like, he can make a lot of mistakes. And obviously, like, some students can say, well, hold on a little bit. Like, my mark isn't the one that I deserve. Like, I think that I did more. Other students may actually say that the teacher has something against them, right? Like, maybe the teacher doesn't like them personally, and so they gave them a lower grade or whatever. And so, like, you question the integrity of the system. And this is something normal and healthy. Like, every system allows questioning, and there's usually a couple of ways that you can check if the system was working properly. And the transparency is as important as the actual workings of the system. Because without transparency, even if the system is working as intended, then people may choose not to believe it. And this is what's happening here, right? Like, it started with the left doing it. And as you can see, if you go on TikTok, in the United States and you're searching for Donald Trump rigged elections, you get no results. But if you go in the UK, you get Trump admits he rigged the election, Trump admits he rigged the election on TV, right? Now, obviously, I don't believe that he rigged the elections, and I really hate like the sound bite, the sound clip. It's like, look, I got 9 seconds taken out of context from a 5-hour conversation. Clearly, I really hate that. But I think people have a right to say it. I think people have a right to misinformation. Like, America has a history, a culture of free speech that they use to influence the rest of the world. At no point is misinformation mentioned by the founding fathers as something that should be cracked down on. Like, people should be able to discern themselves if something is or isn't misinformation. Just like when you want to buy a car, there's no fact checkers there. There's no algorithm. There's nothing, right? Like, you go and you buy a car and the decision you make is going to affect you. The Dashing Rogue, thank you for the $2. Did you see CoffeeZilla's Trump meme coin video? I have not, actually. But I didn't understand that he released a meme coin and he made a lot of people rich. American Outlier, thank you for the $10. Hi V, hope your day is good. The preemptive pardon for Fauci and January 6th committee had me laughing my ass off. Waiting for legacy media to spin this if and when Trump does a blanket pardon on the January 6th rioters. The Fauci pardon is probably one of the most disgusting things that I have ever seen because it undermines and it ruins the credibility. When you give a pardon to someone, that person has to admit that they're guilty, right? Is that how it works? Like, please correct me because I'm not really familiar with the American pardon system. But when you pardon someone, they admit they're guilty. It's just that the law won't punish them, right? And so, like, after being locked up in my house and being told that my family can't go to work and being told that if I want to sit at McDonald's, I need to show papers and that I need to trust the science, which Fauci is the avatar of, doesn't sit very well with a lot of people. They don't. It implies it. Okay, I see. All right, so I stand corrected. Someone actually told me that this is the case, and this sits well with me, which is why I asked about it now. It just didn't feel right. Feels good, man, says A Platypus. Well, I think like Joe Biden did the Fauci pardon to ruin the mood before people went and watched the actual inauguration. SRC Baker, Trump has mentioned Elon knowing the election computers inside out many times, including last night at his rally, so he's not trying to hide it. So the soundbite is stupid, but agreed, question away. Yeah, I'm in favor of the question. Like, if someone wants to believe that because Elon Musk knows the computers inside out, that Trump cheated the election, and they believe that, and they want to share that opinion with other people, I think they should. The thing is, though, like, I was told by the mainstream media and by the Democrats and by the fact checkers that the machines aren't connected to the internet. And so if the machines aren't connected to the internet and if there's like no way to cheat the election, then it doesn't matter if Elon Musk knows the machines inside out, right? Again, get rid of the fucking machines. I'm not an American, but like if I was, this would be my take. Like, why does America need machines? What's wrong with pen and paper? I mean, there's so many other countries that does not use machines. There's no reason why America should use machines. I support Trump over Kamala, but I feel many people will be disappointed because they expect so much of him that it is impossible for him to achieve. The thing is, having a Republican as a president, there's two things that change, right? Obviously, like, people expecting too much change is ridiculous simply because, like, a lot of the damage was done within 20 years. And so, like, to expect damage to be undone in 4, you're local. I don't know how else to tell you. Breaking something is always easier than building something, right? So, like, tearing down something is always easier than building it back up. And in the case of the left, I mean, they tore down a lot of stuff. The good thing that Trump can do is to shift the overtone window so that another right-winger can be elected. This is legitimately why I got so pissed off about the Gamergate scandal. So the Gamergate scandal on YouTube, the reason that I care so much about it is it because like they're going to ban video games? Okay, so for those of you who don't know what the Gamergate scandal is, you have a couple of content creators that were fighting against censorship and against woke ideology infiltrating video games. And so they managed to foster a large audience. And after Trump winning, all of a sudden they decide to go, no, actually censorship is good. You need to censor sexy lady in video games. We need to censor anything that we consider pornography in video games. And basically when they say we need to censor degeneracy in video games, like what these people particularly mean by degeneracy is the word problematic, right? So like basically they want to play a video game, find out if there's anything that they consider problematic, and then they equate problematic with degeneracy with porn, and porn is not free speech, so you should ban it, and they don't feel hypocritical. So basically, like if you have a game with a girl that has a miniskirt, that's degenerate, you need to ban it, right? And there's not a lot of people that are part of this ideology. There's like 5 or 6. Melanie Mack is one of them, and she works for Jeremy, right? Jeremy is not part of the ideology, but because she works for him, he tried to defend her. Razor Fist, surprisingly, also came out in defense. There's another guy that's a total grifter, and he's selling a comic book. Like, he just wants to create controversy so that he sells his comic book. And there's a couple of other fanatic believers that genuinely try to go after video games. And it's very interesting, you know, like, out of all the vices, they choose lewdness, and they're going not after OnlyFans, not after Pornhub, not after, you know, like, real people. They're going after Pixel. And so the reason that I was really upset about it is because the culture that you create is going to decide who the next person that's going to be a right-winger is. Now, I don't care about religion, to be honest. I generally don't care. What I care about is the taxes, the foreign policy of the United States, the economy. Like these are things that affect me at a personal level, even from Romania. And so I would prefer if the next president isn't voted on cultural issues, but is voted on economic issues. But it's very difficult for people to support someone if you keep antagonizing them. Like if you're this type of vegan that's trying to scream that meat is murder and you're trying to ban people's hamburgers, well, it doesn't matter what your economic policies are. Like, a lot of people are going to vote against whoever you support out of spite. They're going to be like, I want this guy off my fucking face. Like, who does he support? Who do I vote so that he shuts the fuck up? And this is why I got so involved into this, because it's not about the gooning. Like, at the end of the day, they can't even stop gooning. It's the culture that they're fostering. Like, we already got through so many moral panics. Like, can you stop the moral panic with degeneracy in video games? Because at the end of the day, most video games don't have sexy women in them. Like, in 2025, the overwhelming number of video games don't have sex appeal. Like, that's the whole fucking point. And the only reason people play gacha games and Gunnar Asian games is because there was such a drought when it comes to titillation that the market is starving for it. So, like, let the market enjoy itself for 1 year or 2, and then they'll move on, I guarantee to you. I remember when the early 2000s were, every single comic book, every single video game had women with big fat tits and an hourglass design. And even I was getting tired of it. And even I was saying, it's like, okay, well, you know, her tits are so massive, it's kind of ridiculous. And that's what happens when you super saturate the market. It's not that I'm a hypocrite. It's that people want variety. Like, if you have a favorite dish, the first time you eat it, you absolutely love it, right? And then you get the same dish the next day and you still enjoy it. But, like, if you keep getting the exact same dish that you love day in, day out, you're going to hate it. And this is what's happening with the market. It's like, just let people have their fun. Let people enjoy their games, and they're going to calm down. Like, you're not going to have Stellar Blade in every fucking game. And even if you do, like, not everyone agrees with you that it's a bad thing. Like, there are some people that enjoy that, you know? So, like, if you try to lecture and moralize them and they don't share your values, you literally come off like a vegan screaming about cow milk being rape, right? You come unhinged when you start saying that they're possessed by demons to enjoy these games. If they're not Christians and they don't share your values and you start talking about demons to them, they're going to look at you like you're a crazy person. Christopher Kittig, did you see Dan Vivara's recent tweet in Kingdom Come? He confirms no unskippable cutscene plus, but no ban in any country. I actually made a video about it. I'm going to get some flack. There's a huge controversy now whether Kingdom Come 2 is woke or not. So I'm going to piss off a lot of people. I hate it when the pendulum swings, because a lot of people, they're debating right now. They're trying to say what exactly is woke, and they're trying to shame others if you buy woke games and stuff. I really hate, the shaming where like everyone needs to be like you. I just dislike that, but whatever, it is what it is. I just gotta deal with the culture. Kingdom Come is a medieval game, right? So like American Outlier, I know you don't like video game. I mean, you like video games, but you don't play them. So imagine you're playing this game, right? That you can actually walk among the soldiers here, and you can talk with each one of them, and you got like quests, and you can go everywhere, right? Like you can go here on the field, you can go in the forest. And this is a game that came out, I think like this is the first one. I don't know. Is it the second? Whatever. Like the first installment of the game came out 15 years ago. I got it. It's been so long, right? And back then, like, there was this huge controversy about having diversity in video games. And they were shocked that, the journalists were shocked that you don't have black people in it. It's like, it's a game of white supremacy, they called it. I'm not kidding. Like, look it up. Like, there was a controversy. I think it was between Polygon. And the developer told the guy, it's like, no, the reason you don't have diversity is because this game is a historical game. It takes place in Europe. Not a lot of black people were in the Schengen area at the time. And so the journalists started making all sorts of bizarre arguments that, well, you had the Moors, and the Moors are black. They're charcoal. They come from the depths of Africa. And the developer started laughing at him and telling him to shut the fuck up, right? And so, like, the community respected the developer for sticking to his guns. And basically, like, making a game where he's trying to recreate authenticity. Now, the story itself, in my opinion, was kind of shit because I didn't like the way that nobility treated the peasantry. I thought that there's a lot of things that your character did which would have got him pilloried. The way he talked with other nobles at the beginning of the game when people didn't know his heritage and stuff. Like the way he talked with other nobles, it's not like you would get pilloried. You would get punished. But he managed to get away with it. Anyway, whatever. Like that's just my preference. However, the game itself was decent. The combat was kind of meh. I didn't pretty much like it. But for a small studio to make a game like this, like it was more than decent. It was extremely well received. And so now we're witnessing the sequel. And in the sequel, you have another controversy coming up. Apparently, people believed, this was a rumor that even I got gaslit with it, that the game got banned in Saudi Arabia for having a unskippable homosexual sex scene. Now, I like to troll people, if you can imagine that. And I was saying, oh, it has a homosexual sex scene, then I don't buy it. And this actually freaked the living shit out of some Americans with pronouns and flags in the bio. And they started spurging out at me, and they were basically saying, well, why aren't you buying it if it's got homosexuals in it? And I'm like, well, I don't have anything against homosexuals. It's just that I don't find it entertaining to see gay men kissing. Like, I don't want to pay for that entertainment. It's something that's not for me. Like, if you want to, you can buy 2 copies to make up for the lost sale. And they were absolutely livid. It's like, what do you mean you don't want to buy homosexuality? It's like, don't you know how things work? Like, you need to work hard, make money from super chats, and then use that money in order to spend on multi-billion-dollar companies and purchase their video games to prove that you're not a bigot. And I'm like, oh, is this how it works? Well, if that's the case, then I'm not buying it. It really enraged them. But then I looked into it, right? And it turns out that, yeah, like, the game is not banned in Saudi Arabia. I don't know who created the rumor, or what interest did that person have to create such a rumor. But I fell for it because it was reported in 2 different outlets, and a lot of people were talking about it on Twitter, so I generally thought that is true. Turns out it's not. The developer came out and he said, like, the game does have gay people in it, and the gayness is related to your decisions as a character, right? Like, it's a role-playing game, and if you want to flirt with men and have sex with like one NPC, you can do it. I personally don't have a problem with it because you can do that in Mass Effect 2. And you can do that in Dragon Age, and there's other games where, like freedom of choice for the player is fine. Whatever. But the other thing is like, oh no, the game has a black dude as well, right? So like, let's see who the black dude is. Now, the black dude, again, it's not the diversity that the journalists ask. Like, the journalists asked to have Witcher diversity. So like in The Witcher, if you go into any city or any village, you will see in the Netflix adaptation, you'll just see black people there. The author wrote The Witcher inspired by a medieval society. And so, a medieval Polish society. And so it doesn't really explain, it's like, how did the black people travel there? Why are they part of the nobility? Like, none of that is addressed. It just is the way it is. They do that with The Lord of the Rings, and they also do that sometimes with historical British movies, where all of a sudden you got like black aristocrats and black people that are there. And the immersion is immediately broken. It's like watching a movie about the Shogun era, and all of a sudden you have like some white people there, and you're like, well, why are they there? And no one addresses that. You know, it's like feudal Japan, and you have white people there, and no one addresses it. No one asks. It's like, why they're there? They're all acting like they belong, you know? And it's breaking immersion. In this situation, the black dude seems to be a physician that's associated to one of the nobles, and he was taken from the Middle East, and he is brought into Bohemia. And okay, well, that's not immersion breaking. Like, it is possible that some noble managed to purchase or to convince to enlist, because I don't know the story of it. Like, it's just the developer gave some hints to it and said that it's explained. And they brought him in there, and as you can see, like, he says stuff like, overall, it is safer in our country. Nobody will waylay you on your journey, and we treat women with greater respect and set great store by learning. And so people are upset. It's like, okay, is this Muslim propaganda? Like, what are you trying to say? That women are treating, that Islam is treating women better? My take on this is that, well, if the character is a Muslim, like, he's going to use Muslim talking points, right? And one of the Muslim talking points, and this is true since the medieval time, is that Islam treats women better. In fact, this is the baffling stuff when you have people in the West, like feminists, that say, well, no, Islam is actually the feminist religion. And you're like, what the fuck are you smoking, lady? But the reason she's saying that is because it is the talking point that is promoted by Islam, even if it's false. But like, Muslims will say it. And seeing a Muslim that says it, to me, is not immersion breaking. Like, it makes sense. Yeah, like, a Muslim would say that. Even if it's not true, right? So, this is why you have gays for Palestine. It's the propaganda. Like, they try to present themselves in a way that appeals to the values and the sensibilities of the nation host. So, like, if the nation host values women, they will say, oh yeah, well, in Islam, we tolerate women a lot more. Right? Like, they're basically trying to sell the religion, which is what propaganda actually means. It was created by the Catholic Church, the concept, I mean, of propaganda, to propagate. Right? Like, you're propagating the ideology. And so, like, they're trying to say stuff that's appealing for the non-believer. Like, he's trying to persuade the non-believer. It's like, okay, but my stuff is better than yours. Now, is it woke? Well, my definition of woke is the intent, right? Like, did you put the character there because it fits with the story and it can create an interesting arc? Or did you put the character there in order to fit a checkbox and in order to please the game journalists? Because it matters, you know? Did you put the character there to educate the public that Islam is better than Christianity? Now, in this particular situation, I don't know. Like, the developer says that he didn't. I have no proof that he did. Like, I have no proof that he did it to fulfill a checklist. I have no proof that he did it in order to promote Islam. I don't think he did it to promote Islam because he's making, like, one of the most Christian games out there. Like, no other game represents Christianity's aesthetics and culture and belief system from the medieval time period like Kingdom Come. So, you know, like, maybe he didn't do it. But the question is, like, will the game sell? And I think the game will sell because it's far less woke than Baldur's Gate 3. right? And if it's far less woke than Baldur's Gate 3, and Baldur's Gate 3 sold pretty well, I can think that this game will sell too. Now, again, we are witnessing the shift of the pendulum, right? So, like, what is considered acceptable to be woke is going to be tolerated less and less. It's because the woke pushed so hard that now they're getting the backlash. And it's getting to the point where, yes, it's going to be literally the one-drop rule. Like, if you have a game and there's, like, one woke element in it, a lot of people will say, well, the game is woke, fuck this game. Yeah, it's going to get to the point where if you have, like, a gay couple in it, yeah, people will say it's woke. Which is very interesting that they don't apply the same logic to anime. Why? Because anime didn't push in the opposite direction and pissed off its entire community. And so, like, with anime, this type of thing is tolerated. It's like, okay, you have, like, a gay couple. Who fucking cares? You know? You have a medieval society and there's black people. Who fucking cares? But if you do it in a Western AAA production, people will tell you to fuck off. They will call it woke. And it's going to be like this for a couple of years. You know, like you push so hard to the point where you have cellulitis in video games, to the point where Siege, the video game Siege, has a lady in a wheelchair. Like, fuck off with that shit, dude. Like, this would have been a parody. So for those of you who don't know, Siege is a first-person shooter. American Outlier is probably going to like this shit. Let me see if I can find out the original trailer for the Siege. Because I want you guys to actually understand just how different culture in video games used to be 10 years ago. Just how fucking manly. Like, it was oozing with masculinity and shit. Like, American Outlier, look at this. This was Siege 10 years ago.
Floor's all boarded up.
Yeah, we faced these guys before.
All right, my drone spawned on the second floor. Got one that just passed me. It looks like we got 3 more in the hallway. They're reinforcing the kids' room.
So the game has 2 teams of player. One team is the terrorist team, the other is the counter-terrorist. In the beginning parts of the game, the counter-terrorists put a drone inside the house, and they're trying to see what the terrorists are doing. And the terrorists, they have to barricade the house.
Wall. Right there, they're blocking the master bedroom.
I got one, ground level. Looks like he's blocking the main entrance.
Oh, I see the hostage. She's in the kids' room.
Oh, cool.
They're barricading all the windows. Ah, shit. They saw me. Drone's out.
Okay, I say we breach the garage.
No, I'd rather not. I mean, they always defend it with a shitload of booby traps. I say we drop in the roof and breach the 3 second-floor windows. We all come right?
Yeah, all good.
All right, set up. And on 3. 1.
Can you imagine if they made a game like this now? Wouldn't it mind blown you? And notice what you get. All of the characters, they're men, right? Like, they're trying to represent badasses, and they're trying to create immersion. Because in such a situation, like, let's be honest, the masked ones, these guys that would be coming, they're all men. The terrorists, all men. Like, women don't do kidnappings and shit at this level, right? So this is like how the game was 10 years ago.
2, 3. Good job, guys.
Yeah.
So what was the focus of the game on? Well, the focus was not on diversity. It wasn't on the storytelling. It was on creating the engine, right? Like, number one, the characters look somewhat realistic. But look at the smoke. Look at the environment. Everything is destructible. This is where the focus is at. The gunplay.
Yeah. All right, I'll get her.
Okay.
Wait, shit, the wall! Covering. Revive me. I got you.
Come on. All right, watch out.
Why don't they make games like this anymore, chat? Okay, so basically, that's what the game was 10 years ago. If I tell you they started adding people with wheelchairs in the fucking game now, would you believe me? Well, you should, because this is literally what they're doing. So they started adding female characters after a while, and the first female characters that they added were actually good looking. You know, but it still annoyed people because it's like, well, come on, man. Like, it's a game about terrorists and counter-terrorists. You know, why can't you keep it like that? You know, like, fine, you know, some of the ladies were good looking. But then they started adding the morbid obesities, and they also started adding the lady in the wheelchair. And at that point, it's like, okay, what the fuck are you doing? Like, instead of focusing on enriching the experience of the gunplay and the smoke and shit, you're now virtue signaling and pandering and adding, like, all these characters that don't make any fucking sense in that setting. Is this Gunnergate or an extension of Gatorgate to it? Feels like a continuation of Gamergate, but it's my opinion. It's kind of like content creators that used to be the leading force of... Well, actually, it is kind of like Gamergate, right? Because, like, what was Gamergate? The Game Journal Press, instead of representing what the market wants, starts pushing leftist ideology. And now you have, like, instead of the Gamer Press, you have YouTubers that are what gamers look up to. And it's like the YouTubers, the content creators that now are trying to push an ideology. So in a way, it feels similar. It's just that they don't have the institutional power. But like they would want to push for morality and become the next IGN if they could. 2000s, we had games like Sven Bomolen and Bone Town. Oh my god, I remember the names, but I don't think I ever played them. This is why I was smart not to do a comic, but a manga. Also, if you want a good game, look up Wet, Uncharted, Asura Wrath, Bioshock, etc. Yeah, I played them. Asura's Wrath I hadn't played because I didn't have access to a PlayStation. I know that it was ridiculous and over the top, though. It would be cool to see what this goblin thing's backyard looks like. Show us your garden. My garden is actually in pretty decent shape right now. But if I was to show it last year, it would have been looked really bad. Because I was working on my game a lot more at the time. Like it was in the early stages, so like I had to do much more. And my son was getting born, so I had less time to do the gardening. Look at the trailer, Rainbow Six Patriots now. There were ladies in the game from the start, but at least they look like cops. I don't remember that. Like, if there were, like, as I mentioned before, the first one actually looked good, right? So, I did mention that. I think, like, they added them as DLC. But, okay, fine. No, you know, it's one thing, like, when you add ladies that look like cops, and it's another thing when you add ladies that are on a wheelchair. Because, like, that was the problem that upset people. Wheelchair operator. Like, let me see if I can find it. Yeah, okay. Like, this became the laughing stock of the internet when it was released, right? So this is Ubisoft. And, like, no one demanded this, but, like, they added it anyway. And you have, like, this, right? Like, fuck off, man. And by the way, this is not, like, a game where this person is staying in the back line. Like, no, he's getting into combat. Like, you actually, you know, like, you fight the terrorists in that thing. And it's like, oh, fuck off. Because you know why they added it. You know, like, they didn't add it because it's cool or it served a purpose or anything like that. And this is, like, something that I never understood. And it was never explained to me. You see, I actually go to the hospital. Like, I went to the hospital. And I talked with people that had disabilities. And it's quite nasty because you realize it can happen to you at any moment. Like, any one of us can get into a car crash. Any one of us can at one point get an autoimmune disease. Any one of us can go into a trip and fall and break your spine. Like, just so you can understand, there was a guy that came here to one of my neighbors, and he suffered, like, the worst freak accident that I have ever heard about in my life. Like, he came to fix a boiler, and he was sitting on a little stool. Like, it wasn't even, like, that high. But as he is sitting on this little stool, and the guy was a little bit chubby, he trips. And he falls, and he breaks his spine on you know, like, at the door, you have, like, that little edge. He breaks his spine on that shit. And now he's paralyzed waist down. And I'm like, Jesus, like, can you imagine? Like, you wake up one morning, everything is fine, and you do something that's you don't even consider it to be dangerous, and then you break your spine and you can never walk again. Like, holy shit, right? So, like, being disabled is something that can happen to anyone, even if we're not disabled. Or it's something that can happen to your family or your kids. And so, like, we're not against the idea of society adjusting stuff for disabled people. Like, I'm not against the concept of society having stairs that are easier to go up and down for people in wheelchairs, that have, like, certain elevators in places so that people with wheelchair can handle it. Like, I'm not against that. But what I am against is this level of pandering that makes no fucking sense. And people with wheelchair, you know, in their fantasy, I mean, the overwhelming amount of them, in their fantasy, they're not in a wheelchair. It is what it is. Most dumb shit ever. Ash IQ and Twitch were in siege from launch. They weren't immersion breaking. Over time, it got woke to the point of parody. Sucks because it's legit one of the best shooters ever made. That's what I thought as well, right? Like, I also... so I don't remember, like, those two female characters being in the game. Because, again, like, the game is, like, 15 years old. I played it in the beginning for a couple of months. And then I remember bouncing out. It wasn't because of the wokeness. It's like I just got out with other games. And when I wanted to come back and I saw like what they're doing and like they're pushing wokeness to ridiculous levels, I was like, okay, well, I'm not supporting this. Is this the game that had the trans bullets? No, that's Call of Duty. Like, just so you understand where the wokeness madness ended. There was a game that actually on Pride Month, like they had bullets that were colored with the trans flag. And I'm like, what do the developers mean by this? I swear to God, you know, like, when you look back at what happened, and I wonder, like, if most people are going to see it this way. But you're looking back at history, and you're thinking about the feminist panic, right? And you're thinking about how, unironically, hashtag yes all men was trending on Twitter, like implying that all men are rapists. Mansplaining, like if you talk to, like you would have a woman talk of some of the most obnoxious takes ever, and she was like so hateful and disparaging towards men. And if you try talking back to her or trying to contradict her, she would say that you're mansplaining. And she would say that America is a rape culture. Like, do you guys remember that nonsense? Right? Like, you're looking back at it and, like, CNN having actual articles about air conditioning being sexist and all that nonsense. And you're looking back at it, it's like, how were people so fucking stupid? Like, how are they able not to laugh at this shit? And then you have, like, the Me Too movement where a simple accusation was enough to ruin someone. Like, they would just get an accusation, and then there was, like, no level of them being able to defend themselves. But anyway, right? I think we're going to look at the pronoun age as well. Like, in 20 years from now, we're going to look back, and we're going to say, like, how did people go along with this madness? Like, what? You misgender someone and you'd get banned? It's like VTubers got harassed because they wanted to play a game that was made by J.K. Rowling. SRC Maker, I sent that video game music video made 13 years ago to the Discord the other day for Modern Warfare 3. Look what they took from us. Today games don't have fans like that. They aren't worth it. Yeah, like let me show you else, something else. So Assassin's Creed Black Flag trailer. Like this is how they used to make trailers back in the day, right? Like look how much this game just simply oozes. Just oozes masculinity, right? And compare it with some of the trailers that you see coming up now. So I'll just wait so the commercial goes away. Ah, here we go.
18. Been disrespected. Have you ever been disrespected?
I mean, doesn't that just talk to your masculine brain? Right? Like what's worse than getting hurt? Disrespected. And it shows like a guy that's tied up and he's getting slapped. It's like, have you been disrespected? Like all of a sudden, like, oh, who's disrespecting me? Who's the cunt? As the Australians would like to say. Who does this? Who's disrespecting me?
Disrespected.
And it is punishment.
Forced to follow orders.
See, like, this is acceptable. Like, this isn't over the top. Like, he got disrespected, of course. Obviously.
Would you rather defy your masters and live by the creed of pirates? Are you ready to fight for the freedom to
Look at this. You have actual women of low moral fiber to make sure that Melody Mac doesn't have an opinion on this game. Because she's not gonna play it. It keeps her away. It's for the Twitter evangelicals what garlic is for a vampire, you know? It's like But like look at this. They would never do this in modern games, right? It's just oozes masculinity. Like this guy, you know, this Chad, he's with two women. Human nature, it's called. It's human nature that the woke were fighting against.
as you wish?
It's not even a big deal. Like, it's not like he's casually with two women. I mean, he went on the 7 seas, he plundered, he comes home, and he goes to a brothel like a normal person.
Are you ready to fight for the freedom?
He doesn't have time to settle down. He's not that type of guy. He's the guy that bends destiny to himself. He bends society to his will. He is the Chad. He is the alpha male. You think you can moralize him? He is above your morality. He manipulates you. He is the one that shapes the world. He gets the Adam's apple that is rich with alien technology and controls everyone. And you know what he does with it? He gives freedom to the people. He doesn't oppress the people like the Templars. He brings freedom to the people through compassion, through kindness, and through his moral code.
To act as you wish.
Listen, to act as you wish. My God, like you're a man and you hear that. Oh my goodness, right? To act as I wish. Not like what everyone else wishes. Like to act like I wish.
Calling all men of fortune, willing to pledge allegiance to no one. Calling all who are ready to defy.
Who are ready to defy, right? Like we do not obey. What do? We defy. Oh my God. They would never make a game like that anymore. Right? Everything now is about being a good little ship. Obey. This century has given us boner pills and crappy TV show. Thank you, McDonald's. Adam's apple, like the one the director, like BioWare is doing. No, it was a different type of apple. Like in the game of Assassin's Creed, the story is that there was an alien civilization on Earth that was highly advanced, and they created humanity. And Adam's apple was like an energy source that would power these alien machines, and it also had like properties that looked magical, but they were just very advanced science. And these people were the gods of Rome. Like the alien culture was pretty much like LARPing as gods. But then something happens and they die, and humanity manages to escape, and the Adam's apple is like one of these magical artifacts. But anyway, right, let me show you something else that was interesting. Like, imagine if they were to make a story like this now.
No, man.
It's also like the creativity. Like the fact that they even thought about doing something like this. So Assassin's Creed 3 takes place in America, right? And it's during the American Revolution against the British. And they have a DLC, and look at it. This DLC promotes an alternative history.
And one man to stop King Washington.
little bit social justicey, right? You get to play as a person that's oppressed. You get to play as a Native American, well, half Native American, and you fight against the tyranny of King Washington. So, like, it's a social justice-y themed game, but it's not cringe, it's not over the top, it's really immersive, it's fucking cool, badass. Yeah, this was a DLC. It was an alternative history. It's like, what if Washington took the crown? There was actually a debate in American history where do they get to have a monarchy or do they get to create a different system? And they chose a different system because, like, in Europe, you had monarchies and they came to the conclusion that it leads to internal conflict and blah, blah, blah. And so they created the concept of presidency. Like a president, I think like America is the first nation that creates the concept of presidency, where the president only gets to govern for 4 years, and the title itself is a humble title. It's like being the president of a club, right? Like he's not a baron, he's not a lord, he's not a king, it's a president. And so, like this game tries to, like this DLC tries to explore, like, what if instead of being a president, right? Like, what if America actually did that? And at the time, kings were considered tyrants because they rebelled against one, right? Like, you rebelled against the King of England, and from the Americans' point of view, you viewed him as a tyrant. And so, like, if George Washington would have taken the crown, he would be viewed as a tyrant by some. Because, again, the propaganda that just doesn't fit, right? Like, you fought against kings, and you promoted the idea of liberty, and it's like fighting against tyranny. And then after winning, it's like, oh, we now have our own king. And they didn't go with that, right? Like, they went with the president, and they completely rejected monarchy as a concept. But still, like, for a game, like, for entertainment, it's actually interesting, right? Like, it's an alternative history. But they don't do that anymore. Stannis was Jefferson? They choose wrong? Would you really have enjoyed the dynasty of the Clintons? I don't know if they chose wrong, to be honest. That's an interesting question. Like, what would happen if America became a monarchy? Like, see, the thing that a lot of people hate about monarchies and why it's not sustainable is the concept of a two-tier system. Like, if you have an actual monarchy, there are two sets of rules. One for the aristocrats and one for the average population. And so, like, if I told this before, but if an aristocrat rapes a peasant woman, then he just pays a fine. While if a peasant rapes an aristocrat, then usually death is the sentence. And this is like codified in law. Like, everyone knows this, right? Like, you have a law for aristocrats that treats them differently, and a law for the peasants. And so after a while, the peasant starts wondering, it's like, well, hold on a little bit. Like, why is it that I'm born to be a low class? Like, no matter how smart I am, no matter how intelligent I become, I will always be lesser than an aristocrat. And no matter how retarded an aristocrat is, like in the Byzantium Empire, you had the emperor being locked up in a cage because he was biting his ministers, because he was, like, mentally deficient due to inbreeding. But no matter how mentally deficient he was still considered better than everyone else in the kingdom, right? And so, like, a lot of people don't put up with that shit. And the idea of like when you have people getting wealthy as well, you got like the peasants earning money and they're becoming wealthy. And so they're wondering, well, I'm as wealthy as an aristocrat, and yet he's still better than me. And what ends up happening is, like, you'll see aristocrats that actually end up being poor through various reasons. They marry with the peasantry. So, like, the nobility, the merchant gets the noble title, and the noble gets the money. And this is actually how aristocracy failed in Europe, like, through this process. Now, we still have aristocracy in certain places, like the UK, but it's just like window dressing. It's just a facade, because, like, most modern people who have access to technology, to books, to, like, they don't put up with the concept. It's like, okay, I'm lesser than the King of Britain just because he's born as a king, and I was like, shut the fuck up. Like, King of Britain talks about environmentalism and shit. He wants to ban smoking. Right, so this is why it doesn't work. Like, people will not tolerate it. The thing that we have close to monarchy, though, is dictatorships. I mean, Russia can be considered a modern monarchy. In all but name. Like, you have Putin at the helm. The oligarchs are the aristocrats. And even the same way, like, the economy functions, with Putin, like, rewarding the aristocrats is very similar to how a noble in Eastern Europe would reward his boyars. It's the close thing you got. Like, it's not an aristocracy, but it's the close thing you got. Aristocrats aren't the same as the king. No, like, the idea is that you have divine rule, right? So, like, God is overruling the nation, right? Like, everything belongs to God. And God anoints one person, the king, and his family to govern over your nation. And so, like, everything the king does, like, he is the one where the law comes from because he has a divine right to rule. And so, like, he makes the legislation and he's above the law. And he gets to set a number of aristocrats that help him govern, right? So, like, the aristocrats are the chosen of the king that comes from divine right. If you don't think it's close, go ask ChatGPT, right? Like, it's a repository of knowledge. Go argue with the bot, if you will. I already argued this several times. I'm not going to go and have the Oxford debates now and pull, like, the books and the texts that I learned when I was in law school. But whatever, like the thing is, like, there's different aristocracies and everyone has, like, their romanticized view of their perfect one. It's kind of like arguing with people about different economic systems. The reality is you don't have it today because it's not sustainable. Like, if monarchy was genuinely a good system, you would have it today a lot more represented. Most of the monarchies that exist today are window dressings. Like, they still have a king, they still have aristocrats, but they don't have real power. Except for Saudi Arabia and some other Muslim nations. Like, in Saudi Arabia, you actually have the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, which theoretically is a kingdom, but in reality, it's a mixed system. Kabra, thank you for being a member for 8 months. In regard to Freedom Beyond Journey's End, people thought that no anime would ever detronate Brotherhood from #1 my anime list until it did. Well, I still think Attack on Titan is the #1 anime. The thing is, like, I'm not even trying to have a conversation about monarchy, to be honest, because, again, it's like something that people like at an emotional level, but there's no practical applications for it. Like, there's no country that I can foresee in the next 10 years becoming a monarchy. And when I say a monarchy, like, I mean, like, an actual medieval monarchy where, like, something that the king would have absolute power. Like, I just don't see it. And if I don't see it, it's like talking about anarcho-capitalism, right? Like, okay, sure, if you like the system, keep liking it. But from a political standpoint, I don't see it being feasible. I don't see it being happening, so I don't know why we're talking about it. I talk about communism because that's something that I can actually see happening, right? I talk about corporatism because that is something that's happening right now. But, like, to talk about fantasies and unicorns and dragons and shit that used to be, and it would be nice if we had, like, yeah, sure, it would be nice if you fly on a dragon. Yeah, you're never going to get it. So, you can keep dreaming. I'm not going to ruin your dream, But it's just not for me. And I'm not interested in the conversation. Anyway, anime has slowly becoming less masculine ever since the end of the Fist of the North Star. Was it Baku? Baku, like, what do you call it? Baku? Like, that's an anime that's very masculine. Isn't that Milei's whole shtick? Anarcho-capitalist. No, even he's not an anarcho-capitalist. Like, he is a minimalist. And even being a minimalist, like, it can work for some countries, it can't work on others. Like, you can't border Russia and try his economic policies. It's not going to work well. Like, for instance, Romania, right? Like, Romania is trapped between Germany and Russia, the European Union and the East. Like, if we were to try to have his policies, we would get subverted the next day. Like, complete ideological subversion. Both by the European Union and by the Russians. And so, like, no, it depends on what country, the scale. I'm curious to see what Elon Musk is going to do in the United States. Like, that's actually going to be interesting, right? Because he's part of the Dodge thing. Like, he is a member of Dodge now. So it will be interesting to see the changes he plans on making. I'm not going to be disillusioned. Like, I think, like, a lot of changes are going to be done to benefit his companies. Like, that's the Eastern European way. But hopefully, like, some of the other changes will benefit America as a whole. And take into account that the changes that benefit his companies don't necessarily mean that they don't benefit other people. Bucky is a teenager. No shit, he's emotional. Yeah, but, like, the other characters around him, right? Elon Musk is going to boost the price of Dogecoin in the next 2 months. I'm not touching any of those coins. You know, like, there's a video from Andrew Tate mocking people for not getting on the Trump coin and not managing to make wealth for themselves. And I generally don't feel bad about missing up on these opportunities. The thing is, by consistently doing what works, and not taking risks, you don't end up being homeless. Like, sure, you don't end up being very rich as well. But, like, not playing with crypto and not getting on these scams means that the Haktua girl has no magic against me. Like, she can never make me lose money. And even, like, if you somehow, like, let's say, you somehow manage to make, like, $100,000 using meme coin. Like, okay, you're going to spend that money and then you're going to be back where you left. I don't feel as if I'm missing out because I'm not investing in Dogecoin or whatever Trump coin comes out. You know, like, if you want to invest in something that has consistent returns. Like, invest in an education so you can get a better job, or invest in, you know, like the stock market and stuff that's stable, like the energy sector or some shit. Like, don't be greedy. Or if you invest the amount of money you're willing to lose. Like, always have that in mind, right? Like, when you go to a casino, like, let's say you're going to Vegas and you want to spend some time in a casino, you should know it's like, okay, I can spend $1,000 and I'm willing to lose that. And in your mind, you're like, you're going to the casino and you're going to lose 1,000, right? If you happen to win, you happen to win. But, like, at least you don't get to the point where you're spending all your finances and your savings. Yeah, I generally don't understand how the public keeps falling for these meme coins, right? Now, I guess it's like, if it's the president of the United States, it's not going to be a pump and dump. Like, there's absolutely no reason for him to do so and risk his reputation. But, like, when you talk about the Haktua girl and there's, like, the Boogie coin and so many other influencers, like, come on. Why the fuck would you not wake up in 2025 and realize that all of these are scams? Like, the moment I see an influencer promoting a coin, I'm like, nope. Regardless of who that influencer is, it's like, nope. Can the government put their hand on Bitcoin? Absolutely. I don't understand why people think the government can't do something. Like, they have the money and the resources of hiring experts. Like, this is the thing. A lot of people think that government experts are dumb. But, like, if you're looking at the way that politicians want to do dumb things and they need experts to justify them, then the experts are incredibly smart, right? Like, imagine this. Imagine that I'm a politician and I want to convince people that 2 + 2 = 5, right? And I need an expert in order to do it. Well, you get a guy that actually adds 2 apples and puts 2 apples there, and when he counts them, it's 5. Now, I don't know what magic he did, how he manipulated the study or whatever. But, like, if he actually manages to write a convincing piece that gets people to actually believe that 2 + 2 = 5, then he's not a dumb expert, right? Like, he himself doesn't believe in that. And if you read his paper, you can't say that he is dumb, because he's not trying, like, he's not convinced of that. He's trying to convince you. And if he doesn't convince you, that's fine. But, like, if he convinces, like, 20% of the population, then job successful. And so, like, the experts that the government hired, they're not stupid. They're just malicious. And if the government wants to fuck with Bitcoin, they have a team of experts, of economists, of legislators, of political power, where they can literally accomplish that. They will find ways that they can fuck with the Bitcoin. I'm not saying that there's no value in crypto, by the way. But what I am saying is that throughout human history, since the dawn of time up until now, gold always had value. And so did bullets. And so if you have savings, then my advice would be either buy land, buy gold, or buy bullets. Never in human history has these things disappeared, right? I got money, stable crypto stocks in energy sector and alternative energy. Also about the government touching crypto, remember CBDC, they want to track your purchases. Yeah, I think like, not to mention like the people who operate the crypto chains, like if they want to work with the government, what's stopping them? And not to mention, I keep hearing that Bitcoin is going to like blow up and shit. It's like, what? Like it's been like more than 7-8 years that I keep hearing that. The thing with Bitcoin is that you can't do business with it because it fluctuates too much. Like most businesses, they want to have like a 5-year plan. They want to have a long-term strategy. And so if you're like trying to open a business and today you're paying someone $100 and tomorrow you're paying them $150 and like 3 months you're paying them $175, that's not sustainable. Like most of the currencies, they require a form of stability and predictability. The moment Bitcoin became so heavy that only central bank can afford the rigs that grok it, it will be the CBDC. Oof. Crypto has no intrinsic value. Do you know how it could get intrinsic value? If the government would allow you to pay your taxes in crypto. Gold fluctuates a lot too. Yeah, but like no one does their business in gold. Like I was talking about operating a business, right? Like making Bitcoin a currency so that you can actually have like a business operated by it. With gold, I was talking about saving your money. So like you have a lot of cash and you don't know what to do with it. I don't know if actually buying gold would be the way. I think buying silver would probably be better because like you can unload the silver a lot faster. Like if you need money right away, you just sell the silver. With gold, it's a lot more difficult because it's more valuable. So finding buyers may be more. She can haktua into a marriage to some rich dude, but there are not many gay oil sheiks around. Don't fool with money if you can't afford to lose. The thing with the haktua girl, and I'll end with this. I think that she's generally stupid. Stupid not in the sense of uneducated, but stupid in the sense of the exact same way that people got scammed, right? Like the same level of stupidity. From what I understand, is that she didn't come up with the con. She didn't set up the infrastructure. She was the face of the operation. She was the PR lady. And so, like, people came up to her and they said, all right, well, this is a good strategy. Like, we can actually do this. And they, like, she was probably bamboozled by some lawyers telling her that's on the up and up and that all of this is legit. And then she went on and like, the only part that she did was to try and convince people to buy it. Now, the reason I believe this is due to her reaction. Like, I think it was with CoffeeZilla, right? Like she's on this podcast and she's talking with people and she's saying like how great the coin is and blah, blah, blah. And then you have CoffeeZilla coming up. And he's basically saying, you guys have just pulled a scam. And she at first, she's very arrogant to CoffeeZilla. Like she's treating him, it's like, well, you know, like if you don't like it, why are you here? And blah, blah, blah. But then CoffeeZilla starts explaining the legal repercussions. And he explains why what they did is a scam and they will end up in prison. And that's when you can see that like the wheels in her head are turning. That she realizes that she's actually getting fucked over this. And she goes to bed. And I think up till this day, chat, she hasn't woken up. And so like, I think like she lawyered up literally after that. I generally don't think that she thought that what is happening is a scam. I think that she was sold the same story that was sold to the people that got scammed. And she was told, it's like, well, you know, this is what people do in 2025. It's a meme, right? Like, people buy it, blah, blah, blah. Show us the video. I don't have it. If someone has it, I can show it to you. Let me see if I can find it. So, Haktwa Coffee Zilla call. Let me see if I can have it.
This is one of the most...
It's like 6 minutes. Jesus. I don't know if we're going to watch all of it.
Miserable, horrible launches I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, then why the fuck are you on?
Right? So, like, she's very arrogant in the beginning. Like, she starts attacking him.
I've been tracing it on chain for a while. You guys generated over $1 million in fees while y'all's fans got rug pulled. There was snipers, but there was also insider trading directly linked to y'all's creator account. What are you guys doing?
No. That's not true.
That is true. That's a fact.
No, it's not.
Well, it's a fact, and you can see it on chain. So
yeah, we know. We trust me. We were there. We can answer that.
You know about the insider trading?
No, there's no insider trading. That's why we can answer it.
Okay, so there's tokens going directly from the main account.
CoffeeZilla.
Right, basically, like, the rest of the stream goes with CoffeeZilla calling them out and explaining what the scam is. And again, like, as you notice, like, the Haktwa girl in the beginning, like, she was acting like this is some internet drama and this is like some sort of, you know, CoffeeZilla is upset because he didn't make money and everyone else did. But as CoffeeZilla explains the scam and explains why it's illegal, like, you can see that the wheels in her head is turning, and then she's basically saying, yeah, guys, I'm off. I'm like, she stops attacking him, basically. And this is, like, not the mindset of a person that's in on the scam. The mindset of a person that's in on the scam is exactly what Doc Hollywood is doing. You know, like, he's trying to explain, he's trying to do PR damage, he's trying to act like everything is normal so that he has time to get his bags of money and get out of Dodge. Meanwhile, she's just shutting the fuck up. Like, she was very loud before. Like, she was very outspoken before. You know, thinking that, oh, this is nice. We made a lot of money and everyone is happy. But then she's like, oh, shit, I can get to prison over this? Oh, fuck. SRC Maker, US is never getting rid of the paper dollar in our lifetimes. We did it for under-the-table deals, from bribing foreign governments down to paying our illegals to clean our houses and mow our lawns. See, this is something that I also tell to people who said that CBDC is something that will become the norm. And I always said, it's like, look, what the rich people want and what the reality is two different things. Because, like, often enough, rich people are so disconnected from reality that they don't know what they're demanding. And so the idea that you get rid of paper money and you have a cashless society, well, there are certain problems. Like, number one, politicians like bribes. And this is true in every single nation, right? Like, the politicians themselves don't want their currency to be traced. And so they're not going to be in favor of a cashless society. Then you have people that are associated with the mafia, like the criminal underworld. These people can become very violent very quickly. And then guess what? They want cash. They're not going to want a cashless society. And these people also pay off politicians. Because that's another thing, you know, this is an open secret. You can't have organized crime if the government doesn't allow it. Like the shit you have in Mexico. Like, I'm not talking about, you know, like some small-time criminal. I'm talking about, like, the large gangs, the large criminal elements. They pay off politicians. And just like they can pay off one politician, they can pay off the opponent. And this is true in many nations. So you have the bribes, you have the criminal underworld, you have, like, what you mentioned, you know, people wanting to pay illegals and shit. And so, like, on top of that, there are also places that do not use ATMs. Or aren't interested in using ATMs, like the elderly in Eastern Europe. You're not going to go into the mountains and convince the babushka that's living over there and she doesn't have a toilet in her room, she still uses a pivy. And you're going to tell her, yeah, we're not going to use cash anymore, go starve. Like, you're going to create a humanitarian problem. And then people will wonder, it's like, well, why can't the babushka use cash? Fuck is wrong with you? Like, why exactly is the babushka not allowed? And so, while you can have CBDC at some level, And you can force like some major corporation to trade in CBDC only, and you can force, like no transaction over $2,000 to be done with cash. You can do that. But to completely eliminate paper cash from society, I don't think is going to happen, because all the people that I mentioned before are going to fight against it. Rich people and criminals use art. Yeah, but like if the art is actually traced, like here's the problem with tracing. If you actually have it like all stocked in a computer, the reality is like most politicians are corrupt. Almost every politician does some shit that's illegal at some point. And the reason no one goes after them is because like when you find out that a politician is corrupt, you want to control them. Right? Like you want to tell them, it's like, okay, I know about this. I'm not going to bring it up if you do what I say. However, what ends up happening a lot of the time is that if you could actually have a system where every transaction they did is monitored and everyone can look into it and stuff, the politicians won't like that, because you just give others more blackmail over them. I don't think they will vote it in. That's my point, right? Like there will be politicians that will be against it, and they will use the old lady argument. They will say, well, there's still vulnerable members of our societies that don't want cashless transactions and blah blah blah. I'm pretty sure it's illegal to refuse cash in the US. Well, they could change the legislation allegedly, right? But like what they can do, I mean, it's not impossible to do. Like if I was to have the ability to change legislation and I want to make a cashless society, if you have a law that says it's illegal to refuse cash, that's no problem. Like all you do is you just slowly remove the cash from the circulation. So like every time someone pays taxes in cash, you remove that cash from circulation. You remove the number of ATMs. You remove the number of cash in ATMs. You make banks be unwilling to do transactions with cash. Like they will take your cash, but they won't give you cash in return. So like if you go to a bank and you want a withdrawal, they will be like, no, sorry, like your money is on your credit card. We don't have cash here. Like we can't give you cash. And if you spurk out, they will say, well, go find an ATM. And you're going around and you notice that there's barely any ATMs, and the ones that do, they don't give you the whole cash and blah blah blah. Like that's how I would yeah, like some businesses can well in the UK some businesses can only accept credit, right? And that's already something that happens there. But like you don't need to go to that route. You can just slowly make so that cash in society can be found. And like in 10-20 years, if you keep doing this, right, like you just remove cash from the circulation, then cash will become very rare. The problem though is that there's nothing preventing people from using alternative currency. It's like, okay, you don't have cash. Well, we'll trade in cigarettes. We'll trade in bottles of alcohol. We'll trade in something else. Like they will find bottle caps or some shit. In communist Romania, like cash was kind of worthless because the stores were empty and you couldn't buy much. And so in order to exchange favors, people would trade bottles of whiskey, coffee, and cigarettes. So like you'd go with like a pack of Kent cigarettes. That was incredibly valuable in communism. And you'd get the pack, you wouldn't smoke it. You'd just give it to another person. And so like, again, the idea of a cashless society is not really something that I'm worried about. Now, I am worried about that we are going into a fiscal dictatorship and every single transaction can be monitored to the point where if you want to know what a person does, you can invade their privacy to extensive degrees. But anyway, I'm going to go watch the Trump inauguration. I hope you guys are having fun as well. And we'll see you tomorrow with the new president. Take care.